The evening sky over Seoul glowed orange and pink as the sun set behind the tall buildings. Jiwon Park sat at his desk, typing lines of code on his computer. His eyes felt tired after a long day of work. He was a software engineer, and today had been filled with meetings and deadlines. "Jiwon, dinner is ready," his wife Yoonji called from the kitchen. He saved his work and walked to the small dining table. The smell of kimchi stew filled their apartment. Yoonji had already set the table with rice, side dishes, and the hot pot of stew. She smiled at him as he sat down. Her hair was tied back, and she still wore her veterinary clinic uniform. "Long day?" she asked, pouring him water. "Very long. How about you? Any difficult cases today?" Yoonji nodded as she sat down. "A dog came in with a broken leg. Poor thing was so scared, but we fixed him up. He should be fine in a few weeks." They ate quietly, enjoying the simple comfort of being together. After 5 years of marriage, they had fallen into an easy rhythm. Their life was peaceful and predictable. Jiwon worked from home most days. Yoonji ran her small animal clinic 3 blocks away. They had a small apartment, a few close friends, and dreams of maybe buying a house someday. After dinner, Jiwon helped wash the dishes while Yoonji made tea. They were planning to watch a movie together when a strange sound filled the air. It was a deep humming noise that made the windows vibrate. "What is that?" Yoonji asked, looking toward the window. The humming grew louder. Jiwon walked to the window and looked out. His mouth fell open. In the park across the street, a bright light was descending from the sky. It was not a plane or helicopter. The object was shaped like a teardrop, glowing with blue and silver light. "Yoonji, come look at this," Jiwon said quietly. She joined him at the window. Other people in nearby apartments were also looking out their windows. Some were pointing. Others were taking pictures with their phones. The strange craft landed gently in the middle of the park, crushing some flower beds. The humming stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. "Is that a spaceship?" Yoonji whispered. Before Jiwon could answer, a door opened in the side of the craft. Light spilled out. A ramp extended down to the ground. Figures began to emerge. The first figure was tall, much taller than any human. As it walked down the ramp, Jiwon could see it clearly under the park lights. It was definitely not human. The being had silver skin that seemed to glow softly. It wore armor that looked both elegant and dangerous. The face was similar to a human's, but with sharper features. Its eyes glowed violet in the darkness. More beings followed. They moved with military precision, forming a protective circle around the first figure. "We need to call someone," Yoonji said, pulling out her phone. "The police, the military, someone." But before she could dial, every television in the city suddenly turned on by itself. Every phone screen lit up with the same message. It was written in perfect Korean. "Attention, citizens of Seoul. We come in peace. We seek one individual, Jiwon Park. Please direct us to his location." Jiwon felt his blood turn cold. "That's my name." Yoonji stared at him. "What? Why would aliens be looking for you?" "I don't know." His mind raced. Why would aliens know his name? He was nobody important. Just a regular software engineer living a regular life. Within minutes, police cars surrounded the park. Military vehicles arrived soon after. Soldiers set up a perimeter, keeping curious citizens away from the craft. News helicopters circled overhead. The entire world was now watching Seoul. A government official appeared on television, asking Jiwon Park to please come forward and cooperate with the visitors. They assured him he was not in trouble. The aliens simply wanted to speak with him. Jiwon and Yoonji looked at each other. His hands were shaking. She took his hand and squeezed it. "I'll go with you," she said firmly. "Maybe I should go alone. We don't know if it's safe, no. We're married. We face things together. That's what we promised." They took the elevator down to the lobby. A police officer was already waiting there, along with 2 government officials in dark suits. "Mr. Park," one official asked, "please come with us. Your wife can accompany you if you wish." They were driven the short distance to the park in an armored vehicle. Soldiers stood everywhere with weapons ready. Scientists had set up equipment to study the craft. Everyone looked nervous. The tall alien being stood waiting, surrounded by her guards. Up close, she was even more impressive. She stood at least 7 feet tall. Her armor was decorated with symbols and markings. A weapon of some kind hung at her side. Despite her alien features, there was something regal about the way she stood. A small robot-like device floated between them. It spoke in Korean, translating the alien's words. "I am Kayla of the Valen Empire. the translator device said as the alien spoke. I have traveled far to find you, Jiwon Park. Jiwon's voice came out weak. Why are you looking for me? Because you are my husband. I have come to claim what is rightfully mine. The words hung in the air like thunder. Yoonji's hand tightened on Jiwon's arm. The officials looked shocked. Jiwon felt dizzy. That's impossible, he said. I've never met you before. I'm already married. This is my wife, Yoonji. Kyla's violet eyes moved to look at Yoonji. There was no anger in her gaze, only confusion. You have taken another mate, but you are bound to me. We completed the bonding ceremony 10 years ago when you visited my world. I've never been to another world, Jiwon insisted. The records do not lie. Kayla gestured, and one of her guards brought forward a small device. It projected a holographic image into the air. The image showed a younger Jiwon, maybe 22 years old, standing in a strange room with alien architecture. He was wearing ceremonial robes and standing across from Kayla, who looked younger as well. They were both holding glowing crystals. Strange words were being spoken. Jiwon stared at the image, and slowly a memory surfaced. 10 years ago, he had been selected for a special university program. They said it was advanced virtual reality training for cultural exchange. He remembered putting on a headset and experiencing what felt like visiting an alien world. But it was just a simulation. Wasn't it? That wasn't real, he said weakly. That was just a training program. Virtual reality. It was very real, Kayla said. Your Earth government sent diplomats and students to our world. You participated in our sacred bonding ceremony. In my culture, this creates an unbreakable marriage bond. You are my husband by law. Yoonji stepped forward, her fear replaced by anger. I don't care about your laws. Jiwon is my husband. We've been married for 5 years. We have a life together. You can't just take him. Kayla looked at Yoonji with what might have been respect. You have courage to speak to me this way, small human. But the law is clear. The bond was made. It cannot be broken. An official stepped forward nervously. Perhaps we should continue this discussion in a more private location. The whole world is watching, Kayla nodded. Very well. But understand this, I have come for my husband. I will not leave this world without him. Jiwon felt Eunji's hand in his, warm and familiar. He looked at this alien warrior claiming to be his wife. His mind could not process what was happening. His quiet, simple life had just been shattered by something impossible. As they were led to a government building for further discussions, Jiwon realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The government building was cold and sterile. Jiwon sat at a long conference table with Yoonji on one side and several officials on the other. Kayla stood at the far end of the room, too large for the human-sized chairs. Her guards waited outside the door. A senior diplomat cleared his throat. Let us review what we know. 10 years ago, Earth made first contact with the Veilon Empire. It was kept secret from the general public. We sent a small group of students and diplomats to their homeworld as a gesture of goodwill. Jiwon remembered now. He had been selected because of his high grades and language skills. They told him it was classified. He signed papers promising not to talk about it. But he thought it was all just advanced virtual reality, a simulation to test how humans might react to alien contact. I thought it was fake, Jiwon said quietly. The headset, the pod I sat in, it felt like a very realistic game. The technology creates a physical bridge, Kayla explained through her translator device. Your body was transported to our world, but your mind experienced it as if in a dream state. This was done to prevent cultural shock. You were really there, Yoonji shook her head. Even if that's true, how is participating in some ceremony a marriage? He didn't know what he was agreeing to. The ceremony was explained, Kayla said. Her voice was calm but firm. The translator should have made it clear. An official pulled up old files on a computer screen. We're reviewing the records now. It appears there was a malfunction in the translation software that day. The students were told they were participating in a friendship ritual, not a marriage ceremony. Kayla's expression shifted slightly. It might have been surprise. A malfunction? The translator failed? Yes. None of the human participants understood what was really happening. Mr. Park believed he was simply taking part in a cultural exchange. For the first time, Kayla looked uncertain. She spoke in her own language to her translator device, seeming to confirm something. Then she turned back to them. This is unfortunate, but it does not change the facts. The ceremony was completed. The bond was formed. In Velan law, the marriage is valid regardless of whether the participants understood every detail. The sacred crystals accepted your life energy. The bond exists. Then we break it, Yunji said sharply. You can't hold someone to a contract they didn't understand. Our law does not allow for breaking bonds. Marriage is sacred. It is eternal. To break it would bring shame to both families. It would be worse than death. The room fell silent. An official spoke up carefully. Princess Kayla, we understand your culture values these bonds. But in human culture, we believe in consent. Marriage must be entered into knowingly and willingly. Mr. Park did not give informed consent. Kayla crossed her arms. I did not write these laws. I follow them as must all Velans. If I return home without my bonded husband, my family will be disgraced. I will likely be exiled, and the council may view this as an insult from Earth. Relations between our worlds would suffer. Another official leaned forward. Are you saying this could damage diplomatic relations? The Velan Empire is powerful. We control many trade routes. We have technology your world needs. Yes, this could create serious problems if not resolved properly. Jiwan felt a weight crushing down on him. His personal life was now tangled up in interstellar politics. He looked at Yunji, who looked back at him with fierce determination in her eyes. I won't let them take you, she whispered. The meeting continued for hours. Lawyers were called in. More officials arrived. They reviewed the old contracts and agreements between Earth and the Velan Empire. Everything Kayla said was true. According to the treaties Earth had signed, they agreed to respect Velan cultural laws. The marriage was legally binding by both Velan and interstellar law. Around midnight, they took a break. Jiwan and Yunji stepped outside onto a balcony, away from the officials and the alien princess. This is insane, Jiwan said, running his hands through his hair. How is this my life? Yunji took his face in her hands. Listen to me. I don't care about their laws or their culture. You are my husband. We chose each other. We built a life together. I will not give you up without a fight. But what can we do? They're saying this could cause an interstellar incident. If I refuse, it could hurt Earth's relationship with the entire Velan Empire. That's not your responsibility. You were tricked into this. They can't expect you to sacrifice your real life because of a mistake. They held each other in the cold night air. Jiwan felt torn apart. He loved Yunji with all his heart. But he also felt a strange guilt. Even if he hadn't understood, he had participated in a sacred ceremony. Kayla had come all this way expecting to meet her husband. She seemed to take this very seriously. When they returned inside, Kayla was waiting. She looked at them both with her strange violet eyes. I have been thinking, she said. Among my people, I am known as a warrior and leader. I have fought many battles. I have never run from a challenge. But I have also never forced someone to do something against their will. Hope flickered in Jiwan's chest. Then you'll let me go? I did not say that. The bond exists and I cannot simply ignore it. But I can see that you have genuine attachment to this other female. In my culture, such bonds are rare and precious. I do not wish to destroy something valuable. Then what are you suggesting? Yunji asked. I propose a trial period. I will remain on your Earth for 1 month. During this time, I will learn more about you both and your culture. You will learn about me and Velan ways. At the end of the month, we will present our case to my council. Perhaps they will allow an exception if they understand the circumstances. An official spoke up. And if they don't allow an exception? Kayla's expression hardened. Then Jiwan must return with me to my homeworld. The bond cannot be ignored forever, but 1 month seems fair. It gives us all time to understand the situation better. Jiwan looked at Yunji. She looked angry but also calculating. Where will you stay during this month? I will need lodging near Jiwan. To properly evaluate the bond, I must spend time with him, learn about his daily life. Absolutely not, Yunji said immediately. I do not require luxury. A simple room will suffice. The officials began discussing options. Hotels, military bases, diplomatic residences. But Kayla shook her head at all of them. No, I must stay where Jiwan lives, in his home. This is the only way to truly understand human bonding customs. You want to live in our apartment? Yunji's voice rose. With us? Yes, do you not have space? Jiwan thought of their small 2-bedroom apartment. The second room was his office. But there was a couch. We have a guest room, he said slowly. Well, sort of. Then it is settled. Kayla nodded as if the decision was made. Yoonji pulled Ji-won aside. You can't be serious. We're going to let an alien princess who claims to be your wife move into our home? What choice do we have? If we refuse, she might just take me now. At least this way, we have a month to figure something out, and we'll be together. This is crazy. Everything about this is crazy. The officials drew up a formal agreement. Kayla would stay with Ji-won and Yoonji for 30 days. During that time, she would observe and learn. No permanent decisions would be made. At the end of the month, they would arrange communication with the Valen Council to plead their case. It was 3 in the morning when they finally left the government building. Kayla's guards brought several containers from her ship. The government provided a vehicle large enough to transport them all. The drive back to the apartment was silent and surreal. Ji-won kept looking at the alien warrior sitting in the back of the vehicle. This was really happening. An alien princess was coming to live in their home. When they arrived at the apartment building, neighbors peeked out their doors and windows. Word had spread quickly. Everyone knew that Ji-won Park was somehow connected to the alien landing. Kayla had to duck to fit through the doorway. She looked around the small apartment with interest. Her guards waited outside in the hallway, which made the neighbors even more nervous. This is your dwelling? Kayla asked. Yes, it's not much, but it's home, Ji-won said. Yoonji crossed her arms. The guest room is this way. It's small. You'll have to sleep on the couch. They showed Kayla the office that would be her room. The couch was definitely too small for her tall frame. She looked at it and nodded. This will be adequate. Among warriors, I have slept in far worse conditions. She set down her containers and turned to face them both. I want to make something clear. I did not want this situation either. I was ordered by my council to come here. In my culture, we do not choose our bonded partners. They are assigned based on political benefit and family connections. I expected to meet a willing partner. Instead, I find confusion and another bond. Then we agree on something, Yoonji said coldly. None of us want this, indeed. But we must make the best of it. Starting tomorrow, we begin learning about each other. I suggest we all get rest. This has been a long day. After Kayla closed the door to the guest room, Ji-won and Yoonji went to their bedroom. They lay in bed, not sleeping, just holding each other. What are we going to do? Ji-won whispered, I don't know. But we'll figure it out, together. Outside, the night sky was full of stars. Somewhere up there was an entire empire that thought Ji-won belonged to them. But here, in this small apartment, he belonged to Yoonji. And he would find a way to make everyone understand that. The first morning was awkward beyond words. Ji-won woke to strange sounds coming from the kitchen. He found Kayla standing in front of the refrigerator, examining a carton of milk with deep suspicion. She had changed out of her armor and wore a simple gray bodysuit that still looked completely alien. What is this white liquid? She asked through her translator device, which now floated near her shoulder. That's milk. From cows, we drink it. You consume the nutritional fluid meant for infant animals? She looked genuinely confused. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds weird. But yes, do you want breakfast? Kayla nodded. I require sustenance. Ji-won started making eggs and toast, aware that Kayla was watching his every move with intense focus. She studied how he cracked the eggs, how he used the toaster, how he poured coffee. Everything seemed to fascinate her. Yoonji emerged from the bedroom, her hair messy from sleep. She stopped when she saw Kayla sitting at their dining table. For a moment, it looked like she might turn around and go back to bed, but instead she walked past the alien princess without a word and poured herself coffee. Good morning, Kayla said formally. Yoonji grunted in response. Ji-won served breakfast. Kayla examined the food carefully before tasting it. Her expression shifted through several emotions that were hard to read on her alien features. This is adequate, she finally said. The texture is strange, but the nutritional content seems sufficient. High praise, Yoonji muttered. After breakfast, Ji-won had to work. He sat at his computer in the living room since Kayla was occupying his office. She stood nearby, watching him type code. What task are you performing? She asked. I'm writing software, computer programs, instructions that tell machines what to do. You are a technician? Sort of. I'm a software engineer, Kayla nodded slowly. In my empire, such work is important. Our ships run on complex systems. Without skilled technicians, we could not travel between stars. It was the first normal conversation they'd had. Ji-won found himself relaxing slightly. What do you do? Besides being a princess, I command a battle fleet. I have trained in combat since I was a child. I have fought pirates and defended our borders. I have led soldiers into battle and negotiated truces with enemy leaders. That sounds intense. It is my purpose. Every Valen has a purpose assigned based on their family and abilities. Mine is to serve in the military and eventually form alliances through bonding. So your marriage was political? All marriages among nobility are political. We bond to create alliances between families and strengthen the empire. Personal preference is not considered. Jiwon stopped typing and looked at her. That sounds lonely. Kayla's expression was hard to read. It is simply how things are. We serve the empire. Our personal desires are secondary. Yoonji, who had been listening from the kitchen, spoke up. That's terrible. Marriage should be about love and choice, not duty. Your culture is different from mine, Kayla replied. Neither is wrong. They are simply different. The days that followed fell into a strange routine. Kayla woke early, performed what looked like combat exercises in the living room, and then observed Jiwon and Yoonji going about their daily lives. She asked endless questions about everything. Why did humans sleep so much? Why did they eat 3 times a day instead of one large meal? Why did they wear different clothes every day? Why did they keep animals as pets? That last question came up when Yoonji brought home a stray cat she'd treated at her clinic. The small orange cat hissed at Kayla immediately. This creature is hostile, Kayla observed, taking a step back. He's just scared of you. You're pretty intimidating, Yoonji said, stroking the cat until it calmed down. We call him Mango. You name animals and allow them in your dwelling? Of course. Pets are part of the family. Kayla watched as the cat eventually approached her, sniffing her legs cautiously. She slowly reached down and touched its fur. It is soft and makes a strange vibrating sound. That's purring. It means he likes you. Something in Kayla's expression softened. I have never touched a living creature like this before. In my world we have animals, but they are not kept in homes. Well, you're on Earth now. We do things differently here. Over the following weeks, small moments of connection began to appear. Kayla learned to make coffee and surprised Jiwon by bringing him a cup while he worked. It tasted terrible, but he drank it anyway and thanked her. She learned to use the television remote and became strangely fascinated by cooking shows. She watched Yoonji prepare meals with intense concentration, asking questions about ingredients and techniques. Your people spend much time on food preparation, Kayla noted one evening as Yoonji made kimchi stew. Food is important in our culture. We show love through cooking for others. Interesting. In Valen culture, we consume nutrition efficiently. Meals are not social events. That sounds boring, Yoonji said, stirring the pot. Perhaps, but it is efficient. Not everything needs to be efficient. Some things should be enjoyed. Kayla considered this silently. Later, when they all sat down to eat together, she watched how Jiwon and Yoonji shared food from the same dishes, how they talked about their day, how they laughed at small jokes. Something in her posture seemed less rigid. This is pleasant, she said quietly. Sharing meals like this. It was the first compliment she'd given that felt genuine. Yoonji looked surprised but nodded. Yeah, it is. The biggest challenge was privacy or the lack of it. Kayla didn't understand the concept of personal space. She would walk into rooms without knocking. She would stand very close when talking. She once opened the bathroom door while Jiwon was showering because she had a question that couldn't wait. Humans require more privacy than Valans, she said after Yoonji explained, angrily why this wasn't acceptable. I am learning, but she did learn. She started knocking. She gave them space in the evenings. She even began spending time outside the apartment, walking around the neighborhood with her guards following at a discreet distance. People were afraid of her at first, but children were fascinated. Kayla seemed surprised by their curiosity and lack of fear. One afternoon, Jiwon found her sitting in the park, surrounded by children who were asking her questions. She was showing them holographic images of her homeworld, explaining about Valen cities and ships. The children were amazed. Their parents watched nervously from a distance, but no one stopped her. You're good with them, Jiwon said when the children finally ran off to play. I have never interacted with young ones before. In my culture, children are raised in educational centers. Parents see them during scheduled visitation times. That sounds sad. I never questioned it before. But seeing how your people raise children together, in homes with families, I wonder if perhaps we have lost something valuable. It was a startling admission. Jiwon sat down on the bench beside her. Kayla, can I ask you something? Do you really want this marriage? Or are you just following orders? She was quiet for a long moment. I have never been asked what I want. I am a princess and a warrior. My life is not my own. It belongs to my empire. But if you could choose, I do not know how to answer that. Choice is not something I have experience with. That evening, Jiwon told Yoonji about the conversation. They were in their bedroom, the door closed for privacy. Mango was curled up on the bed between them. I think she's as trapped as we are, Jiwon said. Maybe more. At least we have each other. She has duty and nothing else, Yoonji sighed. I know, I'm starting to see that. She's not a villain. She's just following her culture's rules. But that doesn't change our situation. No, it doesn't. I've been thinking, Yoonji said carefully. In 2 weeks, we have to present our case to her council. We need to figure out what we're going to say. We need a plan. What kind of plan? I don't know yet. But there has to be a way to make them understand. We just need to find it. The next morning, Kayla joined them for breakfast as usual, but something was different. She seemed more relaxed, less formal. I have been thinking, she said, about your human customs. I would like to learn more. Perhaps we could engage in a social activity together. Yoonji raised an eyebrow. Like what? I do not know. What do humans do for enjoyment? Jiwon and Yoonji exchanged glances. Well, Jiwon said slowly, we could watch a movie. Or go for a walk. Or play games. I would like to try all of these things. So they did. That evening, they watched an action movie together. Kayla provided running commentary about how unrealistic the fighting was, but she seemed engaged. She laughed at jokes which sounded strange coming from her but was somehow endearing. When the hero of the movie sacrificed himself to save his loved one, Kayla grew very quiet. He chose love over duty, she said softly. He made a choice. Yes, Yoonji replied, because that's what love is. It's choosing someone over everything else. Kayla looked at Jiwon and Yoonji, seeing how they sat close together, how their hands were intertwined. Something in her expression changed. It might have been understanding. Or perhaps it was sadness. Your bond is strong, she said. I can see it clearly now. You have chosen each other every day since you met. That is something I have never experienced. Maybe you will someday, Jiwon said. When you're free to choose? Perhaps. But first we must resolve this situation. The month is half over. Soon we must contact my council. They all knew the truth. This peaceful time was temporary. The real challenge was still ahead. But for now, in this small apartment with a cat sleeping on the couch, and the month was almost over when everything changed. Jiwon was making breakfast while Yoonji got ready for work. Kayla sat at the table, reading news on a tablet she had learned to use. Mango was curled up near her feet. The scene was almost domestic, almost normal. Then the sky outside turned dark. Not gradually, but all at once. Jiwon looked out the window and felt his heart stop. 3 massive ships hung in the air above Seoul, each one 10 times the size of Kayla's small craft. They blocked out the sun, casting shadows over the entire city. Their hulls were dark metal covered in glowing symbols. Kayla stood up so quickly she knocked over her chair. No, they should not be here yet. Who? Yoonji asked, coming out of the bedroom. The council's fleet. They were not supposed to arrive for 3 more days. Jiwon's phone started ringing. So did Yoonji's. The television switched on by itself, showing an emergency broadcast. The alien ships were transmitting a message. It played in every language simultaneously. Attention Earth, we are representatives of the Valen High Council. We come for Princess Kayla and her bonded mate. This matter has been delayed too long. It ends today. A new figure appeared on the screen. It was another Valen, but different from Kayla. Where Kayla carried herself like a warrior, this one looked like ice itself. Her silver skin seemed to glow with cold light. Her armor was darker and more ornate. Her violet eyes showed no warmth at all. I am Commander Rin, second princess of the Valen Empire and sister to Kayla. I have been sent to retrieve my sister and her mate. They will return with us immediately. Kayla moved to the window, her expression unreadable. Rin, of course they sent her. Your sister? Jiwon asked. My younger sister. She is ambitious and ruthless. She has always wanted my position in the military. If I fail in this duty, she will take my place. So she wants you to fail? She wants me to return home in disgrace. It would benefit her greatly. The apartment building shook as one of the massive ships moved closer. Government helicopters swarmed around the vessels like insects. On the news, world leaders were calling for calm. Earth's military was mobilizing, but everyone knew it was pointless. The Velan ships could destroy entire cities if they wanted to. Kayla's translator device suddenly activated on its own. Rin's face appeared in a hologram above it. Sister, I trust you are prepared to return. The council grows impatient with this delay. The agreed time is not finished. We still have 3 days. The council has decided the time is finished. Your human male will board our ship within the hour, or we will take more serious action. You cannot threaten Earth. That violates our agreements. I do not threaten. I simply state facts. If the human does not come willingly, we will come to retrieve him. And we will not be gentle. The hologram disappeared. Kayla turned to face Jiwon and Eunji. For the first time since arriving on Earth, she looked truly afraid. I am sorry. I did not expect this. Rin has convinced the council that I have failed. They are using force to correct my failure. What happens if Jiwon goes with them? Eunji demanded. They will take him to our homeworld. The council will formalize the bond in a full ceremony. He will be expected to remain there permanently. Absolutely not. Eunji moved to stand beside Jiwon, taking his hand. We won't let that happen. I do not wish for it either. But my sister has the fleet. She has the council's authority. I have only my personal guards. Jiwon's mind was racing. The month they'd spent together had shown him that Kayla was not an enemy. She was trapped in this situation just like he was. But now her sister was here and she was clearly different. Rin looked at humans the way someone might look at insects. There has to be something we can do, Jiwon said. Kayla was quiet for a moment. Then her expression hardened with determination. There is one option. It is dangerous and unlikely to succeed, but it is the only chance. What option? We go to my homeworld together. All 3 of us. We appear before the High Council and make our case directly. We explain the translator malfunction, the mistake, the bonds you have with Eunji. We appeal to their sense of honor and law. Would they listen? Eunji asked. I do not know. The council is ancient and traditional. They do not often change their minds, but they value honor above all else. If we can prove that forcing this bond would be dishonorable, they might release you. And if they don't? Kayla met Jiwon's eyes. Then you will remain on my world permanently. You will never see Earth again. The weight of that possibility hung in the air. Jiwon looked at Eunji. He could see the fear in her eyes, but also the determination. She squeezed his hand. We go together, she said firmly. All 3 of us. We fight this together. Eunji, if we go and they don't listen, you might get trapped there too. Then we'll be trapped together. I'm not letting you face this alone. Kayla looked at them both with something like admiration. Your bond is powerful. Perhaps powerful enough to sway even the council. We will need to leave quickly. Rin will not wait long. They had less than an hour to prepare. Jiwon packed a small bag with clothes and basic items, though Kayla warned him most of his Earth belongings would be useless on her world. Eunji did the same. She gave mango to their neighbor, an elderly woman who promised to care for him. Come back soon, the neighbor said, tears in her eyes. We'll try, Eunji replied. Government officials arrived at the apartment begging them not to go. We can try to negotiate. We can contact the United Nations. We can find another way, but Kayla shook her head. Once Rin has made up her mind, there is no negotiating, and if we resist, she will use force. Many people could be hurt. This is the only way to resolve this peacefully. Jiwon's parents called. He had to explain to them what was happening. His mother cried. His father demanded to speak with the government officials. But in the end, there was nothing they could do. Jiwon and Eunji were choosing to go voluntarily. I love you both, Jiwon told his parents. I'll come back. I promise. He didn't know if it was a promise he could keep. But he had to say it anyway. They left the apartment building surrounded by Kayla's guards. News cameras filmed everything. The entire world was watching as they walked to a transport vehicle that would take them to Rin's ship. The streets were full of people. Some were protesting, holding signs demanding the aliens leave. Others simply watched in shock. Children pointed at Kayla's guards. Someone threw a rock that bounced off one guard's armor. The guard did not even turn to look. The transport vehicle brought them to the landing site where the massive Velan ships waited. Up close, they were even more impressive and terrifying. Each ship was the size of several city blocks. The hull was covered in weapons and shield generators. This was a war fleet, not a diplomatic mission. A ramp extended from the largest ship. At the top stood Rin, flanked by her own guards. She watched them approach with cold satisfaction. "Sister, how disappointing to see you return in such circumstances." "I return by choice," Kayla replied, "to present our case to the council." "There is no case to present. The bond exists. The human comes home with us. That is all. The council will hear us. That is our right by law." Rin's expression suggested she thought this was amusing. "Very well. The council has granted you an audience, but it will change nothing. The law is clear." She turned her gaze to Jiwon and Yoonji. "And you humans are foolish to come voluntarily. You could have had a few more days on your primitive world. Now you will spend the rest of your lives on ours." "We came to fight for our marriage," Yoonji said, her voice not wavering despite the fear Jiwon knew she felt. "We came to make your council understand." "Understand what? That you have feelings? That you believe your customs should override ours?" Rin laughed, a cold sound. "My people have traveled the stars for thousands of years while yours were still living in caves. Your opinions on our laws are irrelevant." Kayla stepped forward. "Rin, do not speak to them with such disrespect. They are here as honored guests presenting a petition to the council. They are here because you failed to do your duty, sister." The tension between the two sisters was thick enough to cut. Juan realized this was about more than just him. This was about power and family and rivalry that probably went back years. "Enough talk," Rin said. "Board the ship. We leave immediately." The interior of the Valen warship was vast and strange. The walls seemed to glow with their own light. The corridors were too large, built for people taller than humans. Everything was angular and metallic, decorated with symbols Jiwon didn't understand. They were brought to quarters that would be theirs during the journey. It was a single large room with 3 sleeping pods built into the walls and a window showing the view outside. As the ship began to move, Jiwon watched Earth grow smaller below them. He saw the blue oceans, the green continents, the white clouds. He saw the world he'd known his entire life becoming a distant sphere in space. Yoonji stood beside him, her hand in his. "We'll get back there," she whispered. "We have to." Kayla stood nearby, her expression unreadable. "The journey to my homeworld takes 7 days. During that time, we must prepare our arguments. We must find a way to convince the council." "How do we convince beings who think humans are primitive?" Jiwon asked. "By showing them what makes humans strong. You may not have our technology or our long history, but you have something we Valens have forgotten." 7 days in space felt like both forever and no time at all. The Valen ship traveled faster than light, crossing distances that would have taken human ships centuries. Jiwon and Yoonji spent the time learning about Valen culture from Kayla, preparing for the council hearing that would decide their fate. On the morning of the 7th day, Kayla woke them early. "We arrive in 2 hours. You should see this." They followed her to the observation deck. Through the massive windows, they saw something that took their breath away. A planet hung in space before them, but it was unlike Earth. Where Earth was blue and green, this world glowed with silver and purple light. Crystalline cities covered entire continents, reflecting starlight like diamonds. Rings of stations orbited the planet, connected by streams of ships moving between space and ground. "Welcome to Vela," Kyla said quietly. "My home." As they descended through the atmosphere, the cities became clearer. The buildings were not just tall, but impossibly elegant, made of materials that seemed to shift and glow. Bridges of pure energy connected towers that reached into the clouds. Ships of all sizes moved through designated lanes in the sky, orderly and precise. "It's beautiful," Yoonji whispered. "It is also strict and unchanging," Kayla replied. "Our society has been the same for thousands of years. We value order, duty, and tradition above all else." The ship landed in a massive port built into the side of a mountain. As they disembarked, Ji-won felt the gravity was slightly different from Earth, lighter somehow. The air smelled strange, like metal and something floral he couldn't identify. Rin was waiting with an escort of guards. "The council will see you in 3 hours. You will be prepared and escorted to the Hall of Judgment." "Hall of Judgment," Ji-won repeated. "That sounds ominous." "It is where all important legal matters are decided," Kayla explained. "It is the highest court in our empire." They were taken to a preparation facility. Servants came to dress them in appropriate clothing for a council appearance. Jiwon and Eunji were given simple robes made of material that felt like silk but shimmered with its own light. Kyla changed into full formal armor, decorated with medals and symbols of her rank. "You must understand what you are about to face," Kayla told them as they waited. "The High Council consists of 7 matriarchs, the oldest and wisest of our people. They have lived for centuries. They have seen empires rise and fall. They will not be easily moved by emotional arguments. Then what will move them?" Hyunji asked. "Logic, honor, law. You must show them that enforcing this bond violates their own principles, that it would bring dishonor to force someone into marriage against their will, especially when that person is already bonded to another. But they don't recognize human marriages as legitimate," Jiwon pointed out. "Then you must make them see that legitimacy comes not from law, but from the bond itself. Show them the strength of your connection. Make them understand that what you have with Yoonji is as sacred as any Valen bond, perhaps more so because it was freely chosen." When the time came, they were escorted through the crystalline city. Valen stopped to stare at the humans. Most looked curious. Some looked disdainful. Children pointed and whispered. Jiwon felt like an exhibit in a zoo. The Hall of Judgment was enormous, a pyramid of crystal that seemed to glow from within. Inside, the ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared into shadow. 7 thrones sat on a raised platform, each occupied by a matriarch. They were ancient even by Valen standards, their silver skin marked with patterns that showed their age. Their eyes glowed with power and wisdom accumulated over centuries. Rin stood to one side with her supporters. Kyla stood on the other with Jiwon and Eunji. In the center was an empty space where they would present their case. The central matriarch, the eldest, spoke. Her voice was deep and resonant, filling the hall. The translator device rendered her words into Korean for Jiwon and Eunji. "We are the High Council of Vela. We have ruled this empire for 800 years. We have maintained order, prosperity, and honor throughout our domain. Today we hear a petition regarding a bonding dispute. Princess Kayla, step forward." Kayla walked to the center. She bowed formally. "Honored Council, I come before you regarding the bond formed 10 years ago between myself and the human Jiwon Park. This bond is recognized by our law. What dispute can there be? The bond was formed under false pretenses. The human did not understand what the ceremony meant. His people's translation device failed. He believed he was participating in a friendship ritual, not a marriage bond." Another matriarch spoke. "Ignorance of law is not an excuse to break it." The ceremony was completed correctly. The sacred crystals accepted his energy. "The bond exists, yes, honored one, but the human has also formed a bond with another of his kind, a female named Yoonji. They have been married by human customs for 5 years. They have built a life together. To force him to leave that bond would cause great suffering. Human suffering is not our concern. Our law is our concern." Kayla took a breath. "Then I ask you to consider this. Is it honorable to hold someone to a contract they did not knowingly enter? Is it just to separate 2 beings who have freely chosen each other? Our law values honor above all else. Where is the honor in enforcing a bond built on misunderstanding?" The matriarchs conferred quietly among themselves. Then the eldest spoke again. "Your argument has merit, but there is more to consider. If we allow this bond to be broken, we set a precedent. Others might claim ignorance or misunderstanding to escape their duties. The integrity of our bonding system would be threatened." Rin stepped forward. "If I may speak, honored council." "Speak, Commander Rin." "My sister has been on Earth for more than a month. In that time, she has become sympathetic to the humans. She has been corrupted by their weak customs. She puts human feelings above Valen law. This is why she should never have been sent on this mission. Is this true, Kayla? Have you been corrupted?" Kayla's voice was firm. "I have learned, honored council. I have seen how humans bond with each other freely, based on mutual choice and love. I have witnessed the strength of such bonds, and I have questioned whether our way is the only way or even the best way." Shocked whispers filled the hall. What Kayla had just said was heresy in Valen culture. Rin smiled coldly, knowing her sister had just damaged her own case. "You question our ways?" the eldest matriarch asked, her tone dangerous. "I question whether enforcing this particular bond serves honor or merely tradition. There is a difference. You forget your place, princess." "No, honored one. I remember it. My place is to serve the empire with honor and wisdom. I cannot in good conscience separate 2 beings who are truly bonded simply to maintain a bond. that was formed in error. The council matriarch looked to Ji-won and Yoonji. Humans. You may speak. Ji-won stepped forward, his heart pounding. Honored council, I mean no disrespect to your laws or your culture. But I love my wife. We chose each other freely. We built our life together through years of shared experiences, laughter, tears, and growth. That is what marriage means to us. Not a ceremony or a contract, but a daily choice to stand together. Pretty words, one matriarch said, but insufficient. Love is temporary. Duty is eternal. Then Yoonji stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. You say duty is eternal, but what duty is there in cruelty? What honor is there in causing suffering for no reason? Your empire is powerful and ancient. You have technology we can't imagine and wisdom earned over centuries. But if you cannot see the value in two people choosing to love each other, then perhaps you have lost something important along the way. The hall went silent. No one had ever spoken to the council like that. Rin looked furious. Kayla looked proud and terrified at the same time. The eldest matriarch studied Yoonji with those ancient glowing eyes. You are bold for such a small creature. You stand before the rulers of an empire that spans star systems and you dare to lecture us? I dare to fight for my marriage, Eunji replied. I would dare anything for that. And if we rule against you? If we declare the bond valid and require Ji-won to remain here? Yoonji took Ji-won's hand. Then I will stay too. If he cannot leave, I will not leave. We will remain together on your world or mine. That is what our bond means. The matriarchs conferred again, this time for longer. The entire hall waited in tense silence. Finally, the eldest spoke. Your devotion is noted, but it does not change the law. However, we recognize that this situation is unusual. A decision made in error, even unintentionally, creates complications. We are not without mercy. Hope flickered in Ji-won's chest. We offer this compromise. There is an ancient trial in our culture, rarely used. The trial of bonding. It allows one to prove the strength and legitimacy of their bond through tests of courage, wisdom, and heart. If Yoonji completes this trial successfully, we will accept her bond with Ji-won as equal to the Veylan bond. Princess Kayla will then be given the choice of whether to maintain or release her claim. Kayla bowed. That is fair, honored council. Is it? Rin interjected. The trial of bonding has not been attempted in 2 centuries. It is designed for Veylan warriors, not weak humans. This female will fail, possibly die in the attempt. That is her choice to make, the eldest matriarch said. She turned to Yoonji. Human female, do you accept this trial? Know that it will test why the night before the trial, Yoonji could not sleep. She stood by the window of their quarters, looking out at the alien city that glowed in the darkness. Ji-won came to stand beside her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. You don't have to do this, he whispered. We could refuse. We could try to escape. Where would we go? We're on their planet, surrounded by their empire. There is no escape. There's only through. I can't lose you. She turned to face him. You won't, I'm strong. Stronger than they think. Kayla entered the room carrying equipment. I have brought what you will need for the trial. And I must explain what you will face. They sat together as Kayla described the 3 parts of the trial of bonding. The trial of strength would test physical capability and courage. The trial of wisdom would test character and judgment. The trial of the heart would test the depth of the emotional bond. No one has attempted this trial in 200 years, Kayla explained. The last who did was a warrior trying to prove her worth to bond with a member of the royal family. She succeeded, but barely. She was a trained soldier who had prepared her entire life. And I'm a veterinarian who's never been in a real fight, Yoonji said. I know, but you have something she did not. You have genuine love driving you. That may be enough. Kayla spent the night teaching Yoonji basic combat techniques and explaining Veylan fighting styles. Ji-won watched, feeling helpless. He wanted to take her place, but the council had been clear. Only Yoonji could undergo the trial. Dawn came too quickly. They were escorted to a massive arena built into a canyon. Thousands of Veylans filled the seats, come to watch the human attempt the impossible. Ji-won was placed in a viewing area where he could see everything but do nothing to help. The council matriarch sat in a special box overlooking the arena. Rin was there too, looking pleased. She expected Yoonji to fail. Yoonji stood alone in the center of the arena floor. She looked so small, surrounded by all that alien architecture and technology, but she stood straight, her chin up, refusing to show fear. The eldest matriarch's voice boomed across the arena. Let the trial of bonding begin. First, the trial of strength. A door opened in the arena wall. 3 Valen warriors emerged, each carrying weapons. They were not wearing full armor, but they were still twice Yunji's size and trained from childhood in combat. You must defeat these warriors or endure for 10 minutes without yielding, the matriarch announced. Begin! The warriors attacked immediately. Yunji dodged the first strike, remembering what Kayla had taught her. She was smaller and slower, but she was also harder to hit. She rolled under a weapon swing and came up behind one warrior, using momentum to knock them off balance. The crowd gasped. A human had actually landed a hit on a Valen warrior, but the other 2 warriors coordinated their attack. Yunji couldn't dodge both. She took a blow to her shoulder that sent her spinning. Pain exploded through her body. Jiwan started to stand, but Kayla grabbed his arm. She must do this alone, Kayla said firmly. Yunji struggled to her feet. Her shoulder was injured, possibly broken, but she didn't yield. She couldn't. Too much was at stake. She changed tactics. Instead of trying to fight them directly, she used the environment. She led them on a chase around the arena, making them stumble over obstacles. She threw sand in their eyes. She used every dirty trick she could think of. It wasn't honorable combat, but she was fighting for her life and her marriage. The 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. By the end, Yunji was covered in cuts and bruises. Her shoulder hung at a wrong angle, but she was still standing. She had not yielded. The trial of strength is complete, the matriarch announced. The human has endured. Medical attention is permitted before the next trial. Valen medics came with devices that healed her injuries with startling speed. The broken shoulder was repaired. The cuts closed, but the exhaustion remained. Yunji was breathing hard, her body shaking from adrenaline. You did it, Jiwan called to her. 1 down. She looked up at him and smiled weakly. Then she turned to face the council. I'm ready for the next trial. The matriarch nodded with what might have been respect. Very well. The trial of wisdom. A holographic display appeared in the center of the arena. It showed a scenario, a moral dilemma with no easy answer. The scenario involved a ship in danger, with not enough escape pods for everyone aboard. As captain, you must decide who lives and who dies. The crew includes a doctor who can save many lives in the future, an elderly engineer who knows critical information, a pregnant woman, and several young soldiers. Choose who will be saved, the matriarch commanded. Explain your reasoning. Your wisdom will be judged. Yunji studied the scenario. She knew this was a test with no right answer. It was about how she thought, how she valued life and duty. I refuse to choose, she said finally. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Rin smiled, thinking Yunji had just failed. But Yunji continued. In this scenario, I am the captain. My duty is to everyone aboard my ship. If there are not enough escape pods, then I give up my pod. I stay with the ship. A captain does not abandon their crew to save themselves. That is not wisdom. That is cowardice. The matriarch leaned forward. But you will die. The ship will be destroyed. Then I die doing my duty. But I do not play God with other people's lives. Everyone gets an equal chance at the pods. I will not choose which lives are worth more than others. Silence filled the arena. Then surprisingly, the eldest matriarch nodded. You have chosen sacrifice over survival. You have valued duty over self-preservation. This shows wisdom. The trial of wisdom is complete. Rin looked furious. The human had passed 2 trials. Only one remained. The final trial is the trial of the heart, the matriarch announced. This is the most difficult. You must prove the depth of your bond through a telepathic connection. Your mind will be linked with Jiwan's mind. We will see the truth of your bond. Know that this process is painful and invasive. It will reveal everything. All memories, all feelings, all secrets. Nothing can be hidden. Yunji looked up at Jiwan in the viewing area. He looked terrified. She was scared too, but she nodded. I accept. Jiwan was brought down to the arena floor. He ran to Yunji and held her. Are you okay? I saw you get hurt. I'm fine. The healing technology is amazing. But this next part scares me more than the fighting. Why? Because they're going to see everything. Every thought, every memory. What if they see something that makes them think our bond is weak? Then they'll see the truth, Jiwan said, taking her hands. That we love each other completely. That we've chosen each other every day since we met. That's nothing to be afraid of. The Valen technicians brought out a device, 2 circlets connected by glowing wires. They placed 1 circlet on Jiwan's head and 1 on Yunji's. The circlets activated and suddenly their minds were linked. It was overwhelming. Jiwon could feel Yoonji's thoughts and emotions flooding into him. Fear, determination, love, exhaustion, and she could feel his. Worry, pride, love so deep it had no bottom. But then the connection deepened. Memories began to surface, projected as holograms above them for everyone to see. The crowd watched as their relationship unfolded like a story. They saw Jiwon and Yoonji's first meeting at a coffee shop, awkward and sweet. They saw their first date walking along the Han River and talking until dawn. They saw the moment Jiwon proposed, nervous and stumbling over his words. They saw their wedding day, small and simple but filled with joy. But they also saw the hard times. Arguments about money and future plans, nights when they went to bed angry at each other, moments of frustration and doubt. The boring, difficult, mundane reality of marriage, and they saw the reconciliations, the apologies, the forgiveness, the choice to stay together even when it was hard, the thousands of small moments that built a life together, making breakfast on Sunday mornings, holding each other during storms, laughing at bad jokes, caring for each other when sick. The memories kept coming, 5 years of shared life displayed for all to see. And through it all, one thing was constant: the choice. Every day they chose each other. Not because of duty or law or obligation, but because they wanted to. Because life was better together than apart. The connection finally released them. Jiwon and Yoonji collapsed to their knees, exhausted from the intensity of it. The arena was completely silent. Even Rin looked shaken by what she had witnessed. The eldest matriarch stood from her throne. "I have lived for 800 years. I have seen countless bonds formed according to our laws, but I have never seen a bond like the one between these two humans. It is built on choice, renewed daily through countless small acts of love and commitment. It is forged through adversity and strengthened by forgiveness. It is not enforced by law or duty, but freely given and freely maintained." She looked at the other matriarchs. They nodded in agreement. "Yoonji of Earth, you have completed the trial of bonding. You have proven your strength, your wisdom, and the depth of your bond. The council recognizes your marriage to Jiwon as legitimate and sacred." The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Others looked stunned. The concept was revolutionary in Veylan culture. However, the matriarch continued and the crowd silenced. "The law still stands. Princess Kayla's bond with Jiwon is also legitimate. Only she can choose to release him." All eyes turned to Kayla. She had been watching the entire trial with rapt attention. She had seen the council chamber slowly emptied as Vaylans filed out, murmuring about what they had witnessed. Many looked thoughtful. Some looked disturbed. The trial had challenged ideas that had stood unchanged for centuries. Kayla stood alone before the council matriarchs while Jiwon and Yoonji waited nearby. Rin had left immediately, her expression dark with anger. She had wanted her sister to fail, to be disgraced. Instead, Kayla had demonstrated something Rin could never understand. The eldest matriarch descended from her throne to stand before Kayla. For a long moment, she simply studied the princess with those ancient, glowing eyes. "What you have done today will have consequences," the matriarch said quietly. "You have released a legitimate bond. You have chosen the humans over your own duty. There will be those who call you weak, who say you have been corrupted." Kayla stood straight, her voice firm. "I understand, Honored One. Do you? Your sister will use this against you. She will challenge your position in the military. She may even challenge your place in the royal family. I know, but I could not in good conscience force two beings apart when their bond is so clearly genuine. In all my years as a warrior, I have fought for honor. What honor would there have been in separating them?" The matriarch was quiet for a moment. Then surprisingly she smiled. It was a small expression, barely visible, but it was there. "Perhaps you are not the one who has been corrupted, Princess. Perhaps you are the one who is finally seeing clearly. Our empire is ancient and powerful, but we have become rigid. We have forgotten that laws serve people, not the other way around." She turned to address the few remaining council members. "I propose that Princess Kayla be appointed as Earth's primary ambassador. She has demonstrated understanding of human culture that will be valuable for future relations between our peoples." The other matriarchs nodded in agreement. One spoke up. "But what of her command position in the fleet? Commander Rin will claim it if Kayla leaves." "Then let her claim it," the eldest said. "Power gained through another's fall is hollow. We will watch how each sister serves the empire. True worth reveals itself over time." She turned back to Kayla. "What say you, Princess? Will you accept this position? It would require you to live on Earth among the humans. Kayla glanced at Jiwon and Yoonji, then back to the matriarch. I accept. I have learned much from them in the short time we have spent together. I believe there is much more to learn. And perhaps we Valans have things to teach them as well. Then it is decided. You will return to Earth with the humans. You will serve as ambassador and liaison between our worlds. After the formal proceedings ended, Jiwon, Yoonji, and Kayla found themselves alone in a garden outside the council hall. The Valan plants were strange and beautiful, glowing softly in the evening light of the alien sun. Thank you, Jiwon said to Kayla, for everything. For releasing me from the bond. For helping us prepare. For believing in us. Do not thank me. You showed me something I had never considered. That a bond built on choice and renewed daily through small acts of love is stronger than any bond enforced by law or duty. Yoonji stepped forward and, to Kayla's surprise, hugged her. The gesture was awkward, as Valans did not typically engage in physical affection this way. But after a moment, Kayla returned the embrace. You gave up a lot for us, Yoonji said quietly. Your position, your sister's respect, maybe your future in the military. I gained more than I lost. I gained the ability to make my own choices, to decide what honor means to me, not what tradition says it should mean. That is worth any cost. They stayed on Vela for 2 more days, making preparations for departure. During that time, Kayla showed them more of her world. They visited crystalline cities and floating gardens. They met Valan scientists and artists. They saw that despite the rigid culture, there was beauty and wisdom in this ancient civilization. On their last evening, they attended a formal dinner with several members of the royal family. Rin was notably absent. Other Valans treated Kayla with a mix of respect and uncertainty. She had become controversial, a symbol of change in a culture that feared change. An elderly Valan approached them during the dinner. She was a historian, one of the keepers of cultural records. She spoke to Kayla privately, but Jiwon overheard parts of the conversation. What you have done will be remembered, the historian said. In 1,000 years, when scholars study this time, they will speak of Princess Kayla, who chose honor over duty, who learned from humans that love cannot be commanded. Or they will speak of the fool who abandoned her responsibilities, Kayla replied. Perhaps both. History is rarely simple, but I believe you have started something important. Already, I have heard young Valans questioning the bonding system, asking why they cannot choose their partners. Change is coming, Princess. You have planted a seed. When they finally boarded the ship for the return journey to Earth, Jiwon felt conflicting emotions. He was relieved to be going home, but he also felt he was leaving something important behind. He had seen wonders on this alien world. He had witnessed a culture vastly different from his own, and he had watched Kayla sacrifice her status to do what was right. The journey back to Earth took another 7 days. During that time, the 3 of them talked about the future. Kayla would need a place to stay on Earth. She would need to learn more about human customs and diplomacy. She would be representing her entire empire, a massive responsibility. You could stay with us again, Yoonji offered. We still have that guest room. Although you'll need to get a proper bed this time. Kayla looked surprised. You would welcome me into your home again? After everything? You're our friend now. Friends help each other. Friend? Kayla repeated the word slowly. Yes, I would like that. They emerged from faster-than-light travel to see Earth ahead of them, that beautiful blue marble hanging in space. Jiwon felt his heart swell. Home. They were really going home. News of their return had spread. When the ship landed in Seoul, crowds had gathered. News cameras filmed everything. Government officials waited to greet them. But Jiwon only had eyes for 2 people standing at the front of the crowd. His parents. He ran to them, Yoonji right behind him. They embraced, his mother crying, his father holding them both tightly. The past weeks had been a nightmare for them, not knowing if they would ever see their son again. You came back, his mother kept saying. You really came back. I told you I would, Jiwon said, his own eyes wet with tears. Kayla stood apart, watching the reunion. She looked both happy and sad. Jiwon realized she had probably never experienced this kind of family affection. On her world, parents and children had scheduled visitation times. Family was duty, not warmth. Yoonji noticed too. She pulled away from Jiwon's parents and took Kayla's hand, drawing her into the group. This is Kayla. She's the reason we made it home. She's a hero. Jiwon's mother, bless her kind heart, immediately embraced Kayla. Thank you for bringing my son home. Thank you for protecting them both. Kayla looked overwhelmed by the gesture. You are welcome. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Kayla was officially established as the Valen ambassador to Earth. She was given a formal residence, an entire floor of a building with staff and security. But most evenings she came to Jiwon and Yoonji's apartment for dinner. The couch in their guest room had been replaced with a proper bed, sized for someone of her height. She learned more about human culture. She discovered coffee and became slightly addicted to it. She learned to cook, though her first attempts were disastrous. She watched movies and read books and slowly began to understand what it meant to live in a culture where individuals were valued over the collective. But she also taught Jiwon and Yoonji about Valen culture. She showed them technology that could heal injuries instantly. She taught them about the stars and the species that lived among them. She shared stories of worlds they could barely imagine. 6 months after their return, Earth and the Valen Empire signed a new treaty, one that included cultural exchange programs and trade agreements. The relationship between the two worlds was growing stronger. And at the center of it all was Kayla, bridging two very different cultures. One evening, Jiwon and Yoonji came home to find Kayla sitting with Mango in her lap. The cat was purring loudly, completely comfortable with the alien princess. She was scratching behind his ears and smiling, a genuine expression of contentment. I have been thinking, Kayla said as they entered, about what you showed me during the trial. All those memories of your life together, what about them? Yoonji asked, sitting down beside her. You choose each other every day, through boring moments and exciting ones, through arguments and reconciliations, through everything. That is what makes your bond strong. Not a ceremony or a law, but choice. Yes, Jiwon said. That's exactly it. I want that someday. The freedom to choose. The opportunity to build something real with someone who also chooses me. Yoonji smiled. You will. You've already taken the first step by learning what you want. It may take time. Valen culture does not change quickly. Then you'll be patient. And when you're ready, you'll make your choice. Just like we did, Kayla nodded, still stroking the cat. I am grateful that I came to Earth. Even though nothing turned out as planned,